Trending Update USA here, I'm Stefan. Welcome back to your favorite source for trending stories, tennis drama, feature spotlights, and real talk from the biggest voices in sports. Today's headline is all about a statement that turned heads across the tennis world. Andy Roddick, yes, the Andy Roddick, former world number 1, US Open champion, one of the most powerful servers the sport has ever seen, recently pointed out what he described as a negative attribute of Coco Gauff, something that might sound like criticism at first, but actually ends up making her even more impressive. And this isn't the first time Roddick has offered commentary on rising tennis stars, from Iga Swiatek, to Elena Rybakina, to Elena's Wimbledon brilliance, to the rivalry dominance of Aryna Sabalenka, and even the consistency grind of Madison Keys. Roddick's voice carries weight. So when he speaks about a young athlete like Gauff, the tennis community listens. Let's unpack this story deeper. Coco Gauff has been in the spotlight for what feels like her entire life. At just 15 years old, she shocked the world when she beat Venus Williams on the grand stage of Wimbledon. Think about that moment. Venus Williams, 7-time Grand Slam champion, an icon of women's tennis, one half of one of the most legendary sister duos in sports, stepping on court against a teenage prodigy who idolized her. That moment changed everything. And speaking of idols, Gauff has also drawn comparisons to Serena Williams, to Naomi Osaka's calm power, and to the intense mental discipline of champions like Novak Djokovic. But what Roddick pointed out recently spotlighted something beyond raw talent. He essentially said Gauff overthinks, a trait traditionally labeled as a flaw in high-stakes sports where fast decisions, instinct, and emotional control are everything. Overthinking, for most athletes, leads to hesitation, poor shot selection, tight movement, and mental collapse. But not for Gauff. Instead, Roddick flipped the narrative, saying that this so-called flaw actually emphasizes her brilliance because she succeeds despite it. Not just succeeds, she dominates in moments when even seasoned players crumble. Roddick discussed this on his popular tennis commentary platform, his podcast where he analyzes tennis psychology, player matchups, serve efficiency, rally breakdowns, coaching trends, analytics impact, and rising star trajectories. But before talking about his comment directly, let's zoom out and admire the scale. Coco Gauff is now a US Open champion. Yes, that US Open, the same US Open where Roddick himself lifted the trophy in 2003, beating one of the greatest players of all time in Juan Martín del Potro's future rival era, Roger Federer. And now Gauff has carved her own legacy into the same tournament's history books. But her journey hasn't been easy. She didn't just burst into the sport and stay perfect. She suffered heartbreaking losses, a French Open final defeat to Iga Swiatek, multiple collapse moments mid-season against strategic players like Elena Rybakina, pressure serve double faults that reminded fans of Maria Sharapova's past struggles, and sometimes stiff shot pacing against the elite defense of Aryna Sabalenka. But what sets Gauff apart is that she treated every stumble like a stepping stone. Let's return to the mindset behind Roddick's comment. He said Gauff has a tendency to overthink, especially in moments when the crowd hype is thundering, when expectations are roaring, when social media narratives explode, when brand pressure kicks in. Yes, brand pressure from Nike, that Nike where athletes like Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka became generational endorsers. And when tennis analysts start dissecting every serve percentage like they used to with Roddick's own 155 miles per hour serve era. Overthinking is exhausting for an athlete. It means constantly running internal calculations, processing outcomes before they even happen, second-guessing strategy, and feeling every moment twice, once in your mind, once in reality. But Roddick emphasized that Gauff doing all this and still performing at the highest level makes her not just a star but a phenomenon. Because greatness isn't defined by having no weaknesses, it's defined by rising above them. Gauff isn't oblivious. She's highly self-aware. She studies statistics, not unlike the statistical breakdown tools from Tennis Abstract or advanced match analytics from IBM's Slam Tracker, platforms tennis fans use to measure legendary players like Novak Djokovic, or even the rally dominance of Serena Williams. Gauff has openly admitted that she prepares obsessively, wanting every stroke to have intention, every serve to have placement IQ, every movement angled to be efficient. This is why some call her one of the smartest young players on the tour, a student of the game. Like fans used to praise Rafael Nadal for clay court preparation and Novak Djokovic for hard court calculations. But when preparation becomes rumination, it can be labeled overthinking. But Gauff turned rumination into refinement. She doesn't freeze, she recalibrates. When it comes to mental toughness, Gauff stands in a unique lane. We've seen talented players collapse under pressure. Let's acknowledge some elite names Roddick has spoken on before. Aryna Sabalenka once struggled massively with serve reliability, having seasons riddled with double faults, despite possessing the raw power to boss rallies against nearly anyone. And she found her way back, winning multiple major titles. Elena Rybakina has been criticized for emotional coldness, something commentators mistook for detachment, until fans realized her ice-calm demeanor is a superpower under pressure. Swiatek has been labeled too perfectionist, works from a place of calculated dominance, and sometimes appears unreadable emotionally. Until she wins everything. These players were criticized for attributes that actually contribute to their edge. Now we add Coco Gauff to that club, the club where imperfections underline excellence rather than diminish it. Roddick wasn't saying Gauff's overthinking is a true flaw. He was pointing out how mind-heavy her tennis processing is, and why her ability to compartmentalize that processing into unmatched strategy is extraordinary. In simpler terms, most players overthink and choke. Coco overthinks and evolves. One of the areas Gauff improved most dramatically was her serve and forehand stability. Remember, Roddick was a serve technician before analytics coaching was mainstream. He worked closely with serve biomechanics experts like those later employed by players using motion tracking technology developed by institutes like Apex Sports Science. Roddick understands serve psychology from muscle memory to mental state. So when he mentions serve pressure, his commentary is more than sound bites. Earlier in her career, Gauff's serve collapses were a trending topic. Her double faults didn't come from lack of ability. They came from pressure loops, perfection loops, thought loops. But by mid-2025, Gauff returned reinvented. She worked with tactical performance coaches like Brad Gilbert. Yes, that Brad Gilbert, the coach who helped guide Andre Agassi, worked on mental breakdown opponents, and studied tactical IQ tennis at every level, and later, coaching influence inspired by modern tennis tacticians like Darren Cahill, whose analytical approach helped players like Simona Halep, and styling notes, mirrored in refinement from Jessica Pegula's strategic consistency lane. Gauff absorbed the lessons without losing herself. Because here's the truth, Coco Gauff plays with identity, a fearless, athletic, intuitive identity. She doesn't chase carbon copies. She's not trying to be Venus Williams 2.0, Serena Williams 2.0, Naomi Osaka 2.0, or Sabalenka 2.0. She's Coco Gauff 1.0, and that originality is the foundation of her game. And that game is defined by speed, elasticity, court coverage like modern-era defenders such as Ons Jabber's tactical variety era, anticipation IQ inspired by Novak Djokovic's predictive mastery, and rally retrieval spirit often compared to Rafael Nadal. But where she levels up compared to many icons is that she merges defense with offense in moments when it matters most. She doesn't retreat into safe tennis, she counterpunches explosively, like she did in the US Open final when she stormed back from early pressure to shut out Sabalenka's momentum entirely. Roddick also talked about how young champions carry pressure differently. Some carry it like armor, others like weight. Coco carries it like fuel. That fuel sparked again in Riyadh during the 2025 WTA Finals. That Riyadh, the capital where this massive tournament took place, reshaping the appeal of women's tennis with star-heavy draws featuring players like Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula, the same Pegula who was part of America's strategic dominance conversation, powering through finals expectations. Tennis fans globally tuned in, some checking scores via Flash Score or SOFA Score, others following highlight breakdowns from ESPN Tennis or the WTA Insider platform. But Gauff didn't just win matches, she won narratives. She proved resilience, and the tennis community recognized it. Let's also mention that Roddick has highlighted attributes in players that the mainstream mislabels all the time. He once talked about Madison Keys being too aggressive to her own detriment, only for fans to later realize her aggression is her identity backbone. He mentioned Naomi Osaka being quiet to a fault, until the world realized her silence is her sanctuary. He mentioned Coco's overthinking not to diminish her, but to admire the contrast between her cognitive load and her competitive throughput. It's like saying, imagine being this mentally busy and still mentally undefeated. And undefeated might not always show in every match, but undefeated shows in her mindset arc. We saw this earlier this year when Gauff faced consistency specialists like Jessica Pegula, whose ball placement discipline and tactical patience once frustrated Gauff in rallies, only for Coco to eventually absorb that rally patience without losing her explosive pivot. We saw it when she faced aryna Sabalenka, whose first strike offense and margin-crazy aggression often overwhelms opponents, only for Coco to construct comeback angles mid-pressure perfectly. We saw it against swiatek, whose clay dominance has suffocated entire seasons of young talent, only for Coco to keep pushing tactical adaptability instead of folding. And we saw it against Elena Rybakina, whose flat strike accuracy and cold-blood point construction rattles many players, only for Gauff to hold her nerve and refine her footwork between big point rallies without collapsing emotionally. Coco Gauff is also increasingly admired for her maturity off the court. She's been active in social justice conversations, speaking on platform stages such as Time 100 Next, that Time 100 Next list celebrating rising global leaders, something Roddick himself applauded, connecting tennis performance to world influence. Off-court maturity often reflects back into competitive composure. But Roddick's note was about something else. The internal mind machinery that drives clarity instead of clouds it. Let's consider the physics of what she does mentally. Overthinking sounds slow, but Gauff processes fast. That speed isn't always visible. Her hesitation doesn't look like paralysis. It looks like micro-adjustment, strategy computation, tactical refinement. She slices thought loops into solutions. She breaks negative self-analysis into targeted improvement. And fans don't admire her less for that. They admire her more, because she's not a natural-born impervious athlete who never faces internal debate. She faces it, and still wins. Now, let's shout out the era she belongs to. Women's tennis is full of elite rivalry storylines. You have the relentless hard-court power of aryna Sabalenka, the calculated perfection of swiatek, the elegant strategic control of Jessica Pegula, the steely quiet dominance of Elena Rybakina, the explosive aggression of Madison Keys, the artistic tactical blends of Ons Jabeur, and then, Coco Gauff, the youngest major title holder among them, bringing athletic stamina and cognitive engine processing that could easily derail her if she weren't mentally built for reinvention. But she is built for it. That's what makes her truly impressive. Let's touch on one more key area Roddick highlighted in her. The ability to self-critique without self-combust. The ability to analyze a weakness without emotionally drowning in it. Most players need external coaching to pull them out of their own heads. Coco needs coaching to organize her head, not empty it. And that difference is massive. Because we've seen players with less internal mind noise struggle to manage big moments. But she manages them despite having more to manage internally. And that's the definition of impressive. Coco is proof that a mind full of voices can still produce a voice that leads. She embodies competitiveness without compromise, she embodies thinking without sinking, she embodies pressure without panic. And Andy Roddick was right. If overthinking were truly a flaw, she wouldn't be US Open champion. Instead, it's the evidence of her complexity, making her victories even louder.